really thrilled and honored to be up here. And what I'm actually going to do is talk a little bit about what I learned on our trip with Mayor Tory about how to become not just a city that moves the dial for women, but that moves the dial on a global scale. So I'm actually going to try a series idea of 5 ideas in 5 minutes, and we'll see how it goes. First idea. The cities that actually embrace and create exponential innovation are going to be the winning cities of the future. So here's how I get to this. Really, really quickly. Wattpad is a very disruptive technology. It brings people together to read and write stories across the globe. And I got really exposed to some pretty disruptive investors, Khosla Ventures, Union Square Ventures, August Capital. And the thing that became so apparent to me is that there are technologies that are very, very disruptive, and they're very global. And when you look at Toronto on the startup ecosystem sort of ranking, we're number 17 today. Of course, the top 4 cities are in the US. And then there's this really strange thing. This tiny city, or tiny country, Israel, and this very small city, Tel Aviv, is the number 1 ecosystem outside of the US for startups and on a global basis. And so I started thinking to myself, wow, how does Tel Aviv get that spot? And so I have to walk you through a little bit more of my thinking on this exponential innovation thing. I left Wattpad this year, not because I didn't love it, or last year, but because I had this curiosity about exponential innovation. And I started realizing that actually what happened in media, many years ago was starting to happen in many other industries, and that there were some very, very deeply impactful technologies that were going to change our world. Machine learning, AI, quantum computing, VR, drones, robotics, cryptocurrencies, the list goes on, but these were things that were happening faster and faster, and this is why the cities that actually are investing in these and building clusters for exponentially innovative technologies are the ones that are going to win. And Tel Aviv happens to be one of those places. So I got so excited that I got to go on this trip. I went on this trip, and let me tell you, this tiny little country has created a remarkable dent in the universe for exponential technologies. So they hold the most patents, they have the greatest number of engineers, they have the most startups on the companies on the NASDAQ, they have the most startups, they have the most educated population. And I thought to myself, wow, what does that mean for Toronto? How do we become the next Tel Aviv, right? Shouldn't we? We're close to the US. So here's the 4 ideas that I want to share that I took away, and how this is going to move the dial for both Toronto as well as for women in Toronto. The first thing, it's all about access and exposure to the right ideas, people, networks, and judgment. They've nailed it. From the age of 4, kids have access and exposure to Lego robotics. They go to the army, they have access and exposure to highly sophisticated technologies. They come out of the army and they get access and exposure, very affordable education in some amazing universities. They then get access and exposure to industry, helping them commercialize very, very sophisticated technologies. And then they get exposure to 500 incubators to help them run a business. And then they get exposure, just wait for it, to 350 R&D labs that have set up shop in Israel so that these labs can give these people ideas for what problems to solve, and they have access and exposure to the relationships so they can buy their companies, and they keep them all in Israel. Idea number 1. We need to create access and exposure. For women to move the dial, they need more access and more exposure, and the earlier you start this, the better. You look at programs like the Creative Destruction Lab. I just met with Ajay, and he said the number 1 reason for a Creative Destruction Lab is to give access and exposure to the judgment that helps you create globally disruptive companies. We need to do this for women as early as possible. And by the way, we need to give access and exposure the other way. It's one thing to create technology, it's another thing to create a company. It requires lots of different diverse points of view. Give access and exposure to the technologists, and magic happens. Number 2, attitude. It's the small thing that makes the world of difference. You see, in Israel, they have chutzpah. They have the courage, they have the confidence, they have the, they have the audacity, quite frankly, to think that they can build technologies on an exponential basis, that they can build these global technologies. I would say that's what we have to change. I'm an immigrant, I'm not from here, and we have lots of immigrants here. 52% of our city is made up of immigrants, and there's this thing called the immigrant hustle. We need more of that. And also, we need this thing where we actually move the dial by supporting each other to be bigger, bolder, more exponential, more courageous. Like, the number one thing that stops people is themselves. I can say that for me. I am my own worst enemy when it comes to confidence sometimes. I really need a glass of water, but we'll wait. I have 2 more. They're amazing at storytelling. And I just came from 4 years of storytelling. Thank you. You are amazing. See, community. So here's the thing. I learned from Wattpad, 160 million stories, that if you actually want to create action, inspire people through stories. And by the way, Israel has nailed it. Like, I am up here not talking about anything Toronto related. I'm here talking about Israel's story. Why? Because it's so compelling. Startup nation. How does this tiny country become so great? And by the way, it's all crafted, right, in a positive way. Like, they have figured out their narrative and they're telling the world about it. And when you go there, we went there and everybody told us about Startup Nation, why it works. So when it comes to Toronto, we have an amazing, amazing story to tell, okay? We are leaders in machine learning. We have an amazing fintech cluster that's brewing. We have one of the most diverse and accessible cities. We have more female founders than many places. We need to tell the story on a global stage, and we all need to sing from the same songbook and shout it from the rooftops. And we need to do this on a global basis. It's no point just telling our story here. It's about the next point, which is we need to build global bridges, not walls. And this is the part that really just blew my mind in Israel. So, they have just nailed it. They have 350 global bridges to these R&D companies who want what they have. Not only that, 85% of the venture capital in Israel is global. It's global VC. So they have figured out how to build these global bridges. And think about where we sit today. We have one of the most globally diverse populations in all of the world. We have the ability to have global bridges. And I will speak personally. The last 3.5 years, I worked for a startup that was based in Toronto, but had a global footprint. And so most of my time was spent building relationships with the ecosystems in San Francisco, New York, LA, London, the Philippines, to build global networks. If you have global networks, you have global ideas, you have global relationships. So that's it. Those are my 5 ideas. I'm sure I went longer. Thank you. I want to say I'm so privileged to be up here, and I'm so proud. I was on the trip with Jody, who orchestrated this, and she just blew me away, as did everybody else who has participated. This is what it means to come together. And last thing, I'm so excited to just say that the iAngels team is doing just this. They're giving us global access to this amazing place called Israel, and I'm so honored that they are here tonight. Thank you.